Hello everybody, welcome back to From Rhythm to Algorithm. We are back in the park. It is a windy one, so the lighting might be a little off. It was either back to the wind and hopefully you can hear me better, or facing the sun and hopefully you can see me better. And I went with the audio. So you know what we're doing, we're looking for our definition of sensationality. We've made tremendous progress. We got some logical derivation for you today. At the end I might do whole nother episode or just a section. There was some more ontological shock that I saw on Reddit that was pretty relevant to what we're doing, and direct theft of my property. As always, again, my constitutional rights are violated, but picking up with our derivation. What is sensorality? What is sensation? What is sensual? What is sexuality? What is sentience? And so, hopefully the audio comes out. It is blowing. It's very blustery today, but we're gonna give it a go. And so we're just finding and connecting this word sensorality, this all-encompassing idea of why we censor things, or censorship, or sentience. We're building out a word family. We're iterating every word that could be represented with the base word sense. And so continuing on, what is a consortium, right? If you have a conglomeration, a big group, right? A consortium, a consortium, right? That's another form of sensorality. Right, you can see it, sort, consort, I-U-M. There's our there's the I, there's sort, there's a prefix. And so all of these elements should be very poignant. But it's a group, it's a conglomerate. Sensorality is consortionality. Sensorality is a consortium. And if you Google what is consortium, it's just like, I forget exactly what it says, but it's just some archaic word they say. But again, language, it is time dependent, but the state of being a human being hasn't changed that much since human beings have developing and certainly writing language. But a consortium has some sort of archaic definition, but I forget exactly what it was. You can just Google it. Sensorality is sensationality, right? And just again, like I said, building out any form of this word with sense or sort or filtration, so on and so forth. But here's one, let's prove, is sensorality real? What do you think? Sorta, right? Sensorality is sorta. Like you literally say, it's like that, it's sorta like that, right? Sort with an A at the end, sorta. Sensorality is sorta. But you use that similarly to likeness or closeness. Sensorality is holistic. Holisticality, historicality. Right now, history is another interesting word because it's clearly, right, his story. It's kind of like the two things you kind of smush together. But in this case, we see HI is directly functioning as a prefix. So we can just chop that off. History, what is story? What is historical? But again, the base is storicality. Sensorality is storicality. Storic. But if we can see now, you might say, right, it's very clear is where I derive that from. History, historical, storicality, storical, right? But now if you say, look at storicality, and then remember, we're solving sorality through the form with a C, because it's in the past tense, it's definitive. Storicality is sorality without the T, or with a TI and a C. And last episode we proved, again, that I into the S contracts into is, I into the C doesn't contract into a complete word. And we see that contraction of the I and the C in storicality. And so sorality iterated with a T and an IC gives you storicality, directly showing you that, again, this base sorality is being just differentiated into a bunch of forms. History. Sensorality, stories, right? Like I'm telling you my life story. Johnny's telling you his life story. But sensorality with an S, sentient beings produce stories. That leaf is not going to tell you its life story. If you're in the grocery store and you ask somebody how they're doing, and they start ranting on for 30 minutes, giving you their life story, a leaf is not going to do that. An inanimate object is not going to do that. Sensorality, sorries, right? Look at the linguistical form sorry. Begins with an S, ends with a Y, it's related to sensorality. And so, what is sense to sorry? When do you say sorry? right? When you're being inefficient, when you do something incorrect. Soreness, sorriness is proportional to soreness, right? If you've done something wrong, you're more likely to say sorry. But sensorality sorries. Sensorality is sorality, S-O-R-R-A-L-I-T-Y. It'll be spelled out on the screen if you're watching. But rality, ritality, right? R-I-T-L-I-T-Y again. Sorality, right? Sorry, generalize, you take off the Y, you add A-L-I-T-Y. Sorality, preserve the pronunciation of the base word. And you get, right, and so that rality, ritality, sensoritality, right, again, working out what is a right is fundamentally baked into, again, life has rights. So, again, just working out these different sections of the word. What is the difference between hearing and seeing? Right, I'm very, again, because from this overwhelmingly demonstrable stability of two, yin, yang, positive, negative, yes, no, true, false, up, down, left, right, blah, 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 right? We only have two senses. Right? What is the difference between seeing something and hearing something? Right? Hearing is to vibration, that's very clear. But seeing is also to vibration, right? The frequencies that you see or that you perceive are because it's like, right, I have polarized lenses on. The sun's over there vibrating. It has a whole spectrum of wavelengths that it produces. This filters some of them and I see some of the other ones, as is my light, or my eyeballs only perceive certain wavelengths. And wavelength is proportional to this distance thing. We're not gonna go through the whole sections again. But what is the difference between hearing and seeing? You tell me the answer, don't let me tell you the answer. Because again, all of these operative words can come from anybody. And so the uniqueness for me is the analysis, putting these pieces together. And so hearing and seeing, again, both are vibration, but what is seeing, right? You're not seeing light. That's not physically, that's wrong. You're perceiving a wavelength. There's a frequency in which your eyeballs, your corneas, your rods and cones respond to, right? That vibration, boom, has some frequency, and that frequency, we're all connected, is, causes you to see shit. And so again, vision and hearing are both based on vibration, but in the same way, like if you touch something, there's that physical contact. When you see something, it's not physically contacted, whereas if you hear something, it's directly physically contacted. Right? There's no degradation to a photon, but there's a range to sound. Right? Your sound is proportional to your mass. The larger you are, if you're a big lion or tiger, you can roar, and physically, like if I were to scream as loud as I could right now, how far away could somebody hear me is dependent on how much mass I have. And that's true with physical inanimate objects like planets or galaxies. And so sound is, the range is limited by mass, but it has this inherent physical contact where light, and it's not light, it's this emergent momentum, universal connection thing, that it doesn't degrade. And so it's the speed of light's the same in all reference frames. The sound in your ear, the CMB is the same everywhere. The frequency in your head's the same everywhere. And so seeing to me is much more, again, to the photons never degrade. So you're not like, there's no touch. To me, there's no touch to seeing, but there's touch to hearing. Like the air molecules are touching my ear. That's why it sounds way different if I'm underwater, is that medium, that contact. Whereas visually, or you have refraction of light, but if you're underwater, you can see a lot more true as if you weren't underwater. But then again, air is just a medium as well. So there's a fundamental physical difference between seeing and hearing, but I think that's the only differentiation in sensation, right? It's two things. You either come in contact with something or you don't, right? Feeling, right? Texture, right? That's contact. Hearing, that's contact. Vision is not. It's, I'm trying to, what is vision? But the purpose is there's a fundamental difference. With this overwhelmingly evident fundamental stability of two, we only have two senses. There's only one fundamental differentiation from anything in 3 dimensions, and that's 2. So still working on that, I guess. But again, I'm not working on anything like, it's not like I sit down and say, I'm gonna go work on this section of the proof. There's just things that it's just one big cycle of logical iteration, and then each time I come back to these things, I can make a little more progress on each step. I really hope this audio comes out all right because I am not re-recording this. But we are blustery out here, boys and girls. Oh, I'm losing it. But restrictionality censors, now specifically to the S, because we've shown that consistency of I censor with an S contracts to is. And so now we're separating our syllables, and it's going to contract into a stabilized theorem. And so restriction is censoring, right? Restrictionality censors, but it's a choice, it's consented filtration. And so if you restrict something, and again, now we have that re prefix. I just saw that dude Language Jones on the internet talking about how there's a connection between the word re and back. Congratulations, you discovered a dichotomistic pair, two words that pair together. Great, guess what? All of them are like that. Literally every single fucking word. They come in pairs, right? That's the fundamental stability of two. But it's not citing my work. It doesn't matter that you guys have been told, or even doesn't know who the fuck I am. Not acknowledging my work, this is academic theft. When I see shit like that, it is academic theft. But restrictionality censors. Tension constricts, right? We have an animal called a boa constrictor, right? What is a constrictor? Right? Sensorality constricts. Sensorality restricts. But tension constricts. So like tension is this discrepancy. If I tense my muscles, I have the potential to move, or I'm increasing my potential to move. If there's tension in the air, there's disagreement. Somebody's at odds with somebody else. There's discrepancy. And so now how does discrepancy relate to physical sensation of tensing my muscles? Right? The discrepancy is I'm getting closer to the center of mass. Like if I crouch down, if an animal crouches down as it gets ready to pounce, it's instinctually getting closer to the center of mass. But what is that discrepancy of, right? Equilibrium is me standing, I guess, on my 2 feet in my normal posture. And if I crouch down, I'm concentrating my mass. So just how does tension prepare you for movement? It clearly does. That's clearly the words we say. And so just trying to connect more pieces. Gate, grate, right? Sensorality is a grate. It filters with a C. Right? A gate, just take out the R and it's the same thing, right? A gate. Sensorality with a C is a gate. Sensorality gates. A sensor with a C is a gate. I specifies. Again, I'm trying to just put all of these different pieces together. But if like I said, language is completely general. We've demonstrated that. I introduces me, Brad, individuality, speciation, differentiation. Specificity to me, I, Brad. Specification limits. We take these general statements like, it is what it is, and then we say, what is it? It is Brad. Brad is what Brad is. That's true. We went from this general statement, it is what it is, to Brad is what Brad is, me, this guy right here. And so we went from this, it is what it is, could apply to literally anything, and then we've limited it by saying, it's Brad, right? But now we're putting sensorality in, right? Sensorality is, it is what it is, and we're getting really close to our form of our solution, and then the actual reduction will be painfully trivial. But we're still not there. We're on our quest for our axiom. So hopefully the audio came out pretty well on this one. I don't know if it will, but let me restart, and this section will be, that was the derivation for today, and I'm gonna quickly talk about ontological shock on Reddit. Alrighty, so I will just show you, this will be on after a derivation episode. And so what I wanted to show you again is this ontological shock. It happens to me literally with everybody I deal with, but it also happens independently of me. And so basically if you say anything, particularly things that, the hilarious thing is people will, I forget what the phrase is, it's like, they'll get lost in the trees or they'll miss the forest by looking at the trees or some bullshit like that. Basically they miss the bigger picture. And so it happens all of the time. People think they're getting some sophisticated language, and words are naturally defined. You understand their meaning or you don't. And all we're doing with this logical analysis is connecting operative words. And so, again, all of these things are independent of any one person. And so I get on Reddit. And here's a title of a thread. Widely popular, had 16.8 thousand upvotes, was posted 4 days ago by F. Chung, classic Asians. But it says, the title is, "The Matrix Collapses. Mathematics proves the universe cannot be a computer simulation. A new mathematical study dismantles the simulation theory once and for all." And so let's just start off with some common sense. Does anybody out there really fucking function to any capacity that they're being controlled as like a computer simulation? Because you have to take into context where those words come from. A computer simulation, right? Y2K was a whopping 25 years ago. So from anyone's common sense perspective, did the computers take over? Even from Y2K? Again, even back in the 70s or the 60s, before like technology really even took foot. Look at all the progress it's made. Is it taken over the world yet? Of course not. My point being is, of course, this is not a simulation. But the point being is the context in which that statement comes from is a computer simulation. You have to have input, right? If you simulate something, you have to have input to create output. We are the input. Like it doesn't even make sense. And so that would be a computer is a closed system, right? There's no natural evolution to it. But my point being is like, that's common sense. Like, no fucking shit, this is not a simulation. But this weird circle jerk, and now all of the Reddit mods and all of the people that are 22 and they didn't perceive themselves as an athletic person and their big identity was them being a mathematician or a physicist, and they're gonna go understand this big complicated world, and that's not how fucking physics works. But now they're going to be the gatekeepers. They're going, right, gate from our great. We are now gatekeepers. But it's like, the first comment is, you mean this is all real? Fuck. Like, yeah, dude, actions already have consequences? No way, bro. Whoa, dude. We're actually live out here living? No way, bro. Sick. And then, but we get some, and then the next comment is interesting. That's what a simulation would say. Wait for the good ones. Because there's a lot of, the vitriol comes out here shortly. The next section says, what if each layer of a simulation is less complex than the reality in which it was created? Which is, in other words, again, that's our modular statement, a to the n plus b to the n equals c to the n, and there's no solutions past 2 because of the fundamental stability of 2. So everything dimensionality 3 is comprehensive to dimensionality 2. Anything from a higher dimension to a lower dimension completely maps the lower dimension. And so it's like, what if there's like layers, dude? And like, no shit, like no fucking shit, like what are we talking about? The author's stipulation that we can't be in a simulation because a simulation can't fully address the full complexities of reality doesn't preclude the possibility that we live in a simulation that is, in some way, less complex than the reality in which it is nested. No, go fuck yourself, you're a big fucking retard. But it's just, and you might be saying I'm being pedantic or even being mean. If you want to get in the physics game, go fuck yourself. Physics is solved. Acknowledge my fucking work. But you just see people insert doubt where no doubt is necessary. This isn't healthy scientific criticism. This is ontological shock. This is someone saying, here's a fact, we're not in a simulation. And then people just being like, no. It's like, just shut the fuck up and listen. But I didn't, the thread has changed. But here we go. This is some of the good ones. This is an idiotic misunderstanding of Gödel's theorem, and the paper is likely complete crankery. So in this first sentence, this commenter has admitted he has not read the paper. With its, again, unreasonable claims require unreasonable evidence, or whatever the fuck that quote is. Saying we're not in a simulation is not an extraordinary claim. It's saying, yeah, no fucking shit, reality's real. But it's complete crankery. There is a difference between making formal statements about a system versus being able to simulate it. The former is covered by Gödel's theorem, and the latter is covered by Turing completeness. Look at this big smart Redditor, he learned about former and latter, that logical construction of it is what it is. And right, Gödel's theorem, again, we've demonstrated that the first one is valid. The way Gödel derived that is completely fucking ass backwards, assigning numbers to letters. It's literally wrong. But the first one is validated. I proved that from first principle. Gödel didn't. But I invalidated the second one. You can have a formal statement, which within this commenter or in any mathematical diction, when people say a formal statement, what is formal, what is informal? I know if plus normal is informal, but what the fuck is it, right? Why is there, I'm supposed to be polite to certain people, not polite to other people. I treat people as people. And so, it's just, again, but it's just, my point is you've seen the ontological shock. This original math paper, which again, I'm the one that proved all of this shit. To say that we're not in a simulation, I guess. But like, no shit. Like, what kind of fucking nonsense is this? And then it goes, and then some other guy, but it's just like, you see the sense of authority. These people commenting, and they just say, I this, or I assert. And they just say something that's directly wrong. We read Stephen Breyer's book, and he says, law is not science. It most literally is. And so it's like, I don't know where this authority is coming from, right? The first commandment, thou shalt not have false authority. It's not reference to a single fucking person, right? You guys are just too fucking stupid to look at history and know what the fuck happened. A lot of swear words, but this is how I actually talk. And again, I can't articulate science and historical discovery as I naturally would in person to anybody older than the age of like 12 without feeling like, am I going to be abiding by YouTube's community guidelines? The next comment, it just says, in quotation, dismantles the simulation theory once and for all, end quotation, is a stretch. This isn't a scientific refutation, but I would be interested in a response for proponents of the simulation argument. So again, this is what ontological shock looks like if the person doesn't have a mental breakdown. They read something that's true, it's objectively true, and they want to say no, but then they're like, wait a second. That's painfully obvious. We're not in a simulation. No fucking shit. So it's like, I want to see what the other guys have to say. Do you not have the agency and capacity to assess logic and truth or falseness yourself? Are you not a grown man? Can't you think for yourself? And when I say grown man, I mean men and women, just easier to talk that way. But it says, pop sci journalism is pure clickbait. The paper is usually more restrained. It's pure clickbait to say we're not in a simulation. Does anybody say the stupid shit they think in their heads out loud? In this case, the paper is also bonkers and the author is a nut job. But don't you see how this is just ontological shock paired with projection? In what fucking universe is it outlandish to say that we are not in a simulation? What does that even mean? Again, it comes directly from the context of computer simulations. That's where that phrase comes from. You just took away the computer. You took away the adjective. And they said, this isn't my post. None of this is responding to me personally, but I hate the behavior. And when it happens to me personally, it doesn't matter. You telling me I'm a great scientist, or you fucking, if it doesn't affect my day-to-day life, I do not give a fuck if it's positive or negative coming at me. I don't. You telling me I prove something, great, you learn something, I don't care. I want my money and I want it left alone. But it makes me livid to see this behavior, and then people just like, yeah, man, this is the right way to behave. Stop having kids, man. The vast majority of people do not know how to behave, and they produce children that spew out hatred and vitriol like this. This is not how you raise a child. Because as we discussed already, it takes a lot for you to want to leave a comment on something. If something is directly wrong, or you disagree with it even, and it is objectively wrong, and it doesn't affect anything, you just move along. Right? But to be incensed, to be angry, and you have to leave a comment and tell them, no, Brad, no. It is pure vitriol. It's disgusting. It's fucking disgusting to see. And here's another great intellectual. This is basically a category error wrapped in fancy math terms. They're applying Gödel's incompleteness theorem, which is about formal logic systems, to physical reality itself. But the universe isn't a formal system. There's physical consistency. Yes, it is. There, formal means consistent. It is. It just exists. Correct. And I'm proving everything by pure existence. Our models, in italics, of it are formal systems, but that's different. Even if our physics theories have Gödelian limits, that doesn't mean reality does. I mean, it's really not, there's no point to really read this whole stuff. But this stuff just makes me, like, because again, these are math students. These are people that are PhD students right now, and they're just spewing off vitriolic bullshit. It's disgusting to see. Again, math, society, again, we don't have a society. I mean, it's all fucking atrocious. But these people, again, if my work was published and I was who I am, the most accomplished mathematician, that this behavior would be eradicated immediately. This person, I would figure out who these fucking people are, and they would be kicked out of their programs today. There was no room for this at all. And you guys aren't doing anything. I'm the only pure mathematician really fucking working. You guys are picking up the scraps of fucking nothing. It is free to be a good person. It is fucking free to have respect of other people's lives. And then somebody makes a post and says, the universe isn't a simulation. And this is the vitriol that comes back. And these are the people that are in math clubs. All of these, they have their cute little avatar pictures and their names, and they're all quirky and fun. And it says mathematical functional analysis, combinatorics. And you're just a dick. And most importantly, you're not fucking mathematicians. Anybody in academia, you are the furthest thing from anything that mathematics should be, physics should be, logic should be, linguistics should be. You're just administrators and beneficiaries of fraud. It's just true. And then it's, I'm trying to find a couple other ones, because it breaks down one of these responses had like a good breakdown of what the argument was. And it's basically saying the first Gödel's theorem is correct, and because sensorality with an S is more comprehensive than sensorality with a C, life is not a simulation. Which is my argument. Don't get me wrong. Like I said, I've already formalized and articulated that in proper ontology. But I'm saying it's just disgusting. To the mathematics, to the PhD students out there, if you were over the age of 17, if you were in late stage high school or into college or into graduate school, and you are leaving comments like this, one fucking day of my work being recognized is the last day you ever have any sense of you're a mathematician. Because you're a fucking dick, and none of you people do anything compared to me. Objectively, nothing. Rounding up square to the infinite power, you do dick nothing compared to me. And it's free to be a good person. And this is why physics and mathematics hasn't really progressed. And mathematicians will sit there and say, we're making progress. If your big mathematical goal is just pure mathematics, go fuck yourself, you do nothing of value. But this stuff makes me mad. Because like I said, this is where I put my foot down. I am the pinnacle, the premier guy in this shit, and this is not appropriate behavior. If you want to say you're in mathematics, that you do not leave edgy little edgelord comments on fucking threads about people saying stuff that's evidently fucking true. And it doesn't matter if you know who I am or not. It is free and easy to be a good person. So that is it. I just wanted to show you a little bit, and you can read through the other comments. It's no use of my time. But there's a couple ones, and it's just, somebody says, hey man, yeah, we're not in a simulation. No shit, we're not in a simulation. But at this point, I have no understanding of what mathematicians or physicists or anybody's out there doing. It's demonstrable that you guys do not have the maturity to behave properly. Forget math, physics, any of this shit. You guys just don't know how to behave. Thank you for watching. See you on the next one.